Thank you, Steph. It is official. Hours after violent rioters smashed their way through the Capitol building in Washington, Joe Biden's election win is officially confirmed. But it came with a cost. 4 people lost their lives, and a nation shattered. And this was just some of the scenes here. Angry mobs storming the Capitol after a speech where U.S. President Donald Trump again falsely claiming that the election was stolen. Protesters scaling the high walls around the Capitol, forcing their way inside seemingly with little resistance. And once inside, chaos. 1 woman shot and later died. 3 others died of medical conditions. The supporters took over the building, making their way onto the Senate floor. And a powerful image with officers, guns drawn, barricaded inside the chambers, ready to fire. In the end, 52 were arrested, and calls for Trump to be immediately removed. President-elect Joe Biden called the attack an assault on the Citadel of Liberty.
The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent, it's disorder.
Even some of Trump's closest allies changing their tune after seeing the horrors on the Capitol. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell berated the president for continuous messaging about widespread election fraud with no evidence.
If this election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral.
And it was early this morning, just before 4 o'clock, Republicans and Democrats finished the Electoral College vote, confirming the results of the November election. And moments after, Trump issuing a statement saying there will be an orderly transition on Inauguration Day. Now, here at home, Mayor John Tory says what happened was simply sad, chalked it up to a lack of leadership under Trump.
When you see, signs of division coming about, polarization, and this kind of thing, that your job is to try and calm it, not to whip it up. And, Mr. Trump, it would appear, certainly from every indication, was actually whipping it up for a long time.
And the mayor says it was disturbing to think the country, which has stood as a beacon of democracy, has spiraled down to what we saw here. There was a small pro-Trump motor rally that took place in Toronto. The mayor says it was some protesters he has seen at several local gatherings, including near his residence last weekend. All right, joining me now from Chicago, Illinois, is former U.S. Ambassador to Canada and co-author of the best-selling memoir, The Art of Diplomacy, Strengthening the Canada-U.S. Relationship in Times of Uncertainty. So very fitting right now. Bruce Heyman joining us live. Good morning to you, Bruce.
Good morning.
I've heard you describe the scenes on the Capitol as heartbreaking, a sad day. Can you elaborate a little bit?
So for somebody who so deeply, feels their American patriotism, who has served our country in Canada as the U.S. ambassador, who worked as a student in Capitol Hill at that beautiful building, who was confirmed by the Senate, you sit there and look at that and you realize that the ridiculousness of this president and the dangerous language that he has employed has only escalated over 4 years. Everybody in Canada knows that I've been a counterpoint to Donald Trump over these 4 years, but never in my wildest dreams did I think the President of the United States would encourage a group of followers to go take hold and march to the Capitol and do what they did yesterday. Very dangerous, very scary, and we still have 13 days to go. And I worry about each and every one of these days until Joe Biden takes over as president.
Bruce, what are the options between now and the 20th? There are calls for impeachment. There are calls for, hearing about the 25th Amendment. So what could be done? What should be done?
So let's walk through that so that everybody understands. First, you can obviously just go day by day. You have 13 days that you have the people around him stand up for our country and repudiate whatever he says. And you see the social media companies shut him down if he goes off the rails, etc. Number two, you can encourage the use of the 25th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, and that is when the vice president takes over authority for the president. To do that, you'd need the majority of his cabinet and the vice president to go to Congress and to work out an agreement to do that. Number three, you can do another impeachment. And why would that even matter, even if you couldn't get it done? First of all, if he is convicted under impeachment, he would never be allowed to serve again. And so that's an option. Obviously, the last option is try to convince him to resign, which I think has, little effect at this stage. But these are all the options that are available. And I think it's going to be up to Republicans to decide what path to go down. And this is where this party is, fighting within itself. This isn't about Democrat versus Republican today. This is about Republicans trying to determine what they're going to be in the post-Trumpian presidency and whether or not they're going to continue to follow him or whether they're going to take a separate road and be the opposition, as you think about it in Parliament, that they are no longer in charge of the presidency, the House, or the Senate. But they do have a role to play, and it could be an effective one, or it could be a disruptive one, and it's their choice.
Bruce, what do you anticipate will happen with a change in administration? Do you see anything major happening? Or, no doubt nothing will happen overnight. But what are your predictions?
Well, it's clear we have a lot of repair work to do. And the first thing that we have to do, obviously, is deal with this pandemic, which is so mishandled by this administration, with more than 350,000 lives and souls lost, and a vaccine implementation that is not going well at all. And so we're going to have to jump on that in this new administration right off the bat. The second is we're going to need to make sure that there's enough money and funds and stimulus in the economy to keep the people who have been so hurt by this pandemic stable until we can get through the back end of the vaccine. The third is we have damage done to our democracy at home and internationally, and we've got a lot of repair work to do for the American brand and our reputation. And I know in talking to people throughout Canada how they feel about America. It breaks my heart, but I know that we can get back on the right track, but we're going to have to earn it. We can't just say, hey, we're back, everything's good. It's not going to be some magic wand on January 21st. We're going to have to earn now back the trust that we have so damaged.
And we as Canadians can't put our hands over our eyes and say this is an American problem. We are very much tied into, but economically, politically, so our neighbors to the south. And so what do you say to our Canadian friends here and why we should be paying close attention to what happens?
So if we've learned anything over the last year or so, that the world is interconnected. We see a pandemic can't be contained in one country. We know climate change and the environment. If the U.S. pollutes the Great Lakes, guess what? 40 million people drink from it, and many of them are Canadians. So what happens to the south of you, not only through trade, not only through our deep ties internationally, but our behaviors are not contained. And if you have a rogue government in the world, an authoritarian government, that can't be contained either. We have very bad instances where neighbors become consumed by such bad behavior. So Canada should be rooting for the U.S. as we should be rooting for Canada every day for a positive outcome. Democracy is fragile. That's what we've learned. And we need to work hard to protect it every day. And, we are really testing our democracy this week. But good news, we have now affirmed President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be the next president and vice president. Good news, we have new senators coming in, and the Democrats will take control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And good news, I think we're on a path to healing, but it really won't begin for a couple of weeks. And so we've got work to do.
A lot of work to do, but some good news that we see on the horizon. Bruce Heyman, as always, thank you.
Be healthy, everyone. Be well. And I look forward to coming back up and sharing a beer with you and in better times on the other side of this pandemic.
Indeed, we look forward to that. Thank you for that. 8:19, you're watching Breakfast Television. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll come on back to you in a couple minutes.